about when that makes the most sense. Well, all the candidates have introduced themselves. If it's okay with the candidates, because this is a change, I'm going to let the person who has volunteered to come speak to the con position do that next, and then we'll return to questions for everybody. And that will include the person for the con position. Suzanne, why don't you come on up, have a seat, and would you please introduce, please introduce yourself and then speak to why you are opposing the measure.
Thank you. My name is Suzanne Rohner, and what I want to point out is the difference in language between the resolution and the proposition. The resolution is what the city and the county put together to describe what this effort is, and the proposition language is what you read on the ballot. So the resolution, God, this is weird. The resolution says, whereas a representative from the Fidalgo Parks and
Recreation District.
Thank you. The Fidalgo, it says F, I think it's supposed to be Fidalgo Parks, thank you, Parks and Recreation District has communicated with the city that after consideration of various alternatives, the Board of Commissioners of the Fidalgo Parks and Recreation District has recommended the formation of the Metropolitan Park District, organized under the RCW Chapter 35.61, and has plans to succeed the businesses and assets of the Fidalgo Parks and Recreation District and owning and operating the Fidalgo Park and Recreation, the Fidalgo Pool and Fitness Center and other parks and recreational facilities and programs within the boundaries coterminous with the Anacortes School District. What that's saying, me stumbling over the initials, is that there's a plan that the Metropolitan Park District can absorb all the other parks in the school district boundaries. That's what's in the resolution. What you will read in your ballot is the Skagit County Commissioners adopted resolution numbered, and the Anacortes City Council adopted resolution 3184 concerning a joint proposition to form a Metropolitan Park District. If approved, it would create the Fidalgo Metropolitan Recreation District with powers in 35.61 RCW to operate the Fidalgo Pool and Fitness Center campus. That leads you to believe that this Metropolitan Park District is for the pool only. The district would be governed by 5 members on a board to be elected at large with boundaries coterminous with the Anacortes School District. The district level levy the district would levy a maximum property tax rate of 12 cents per $1,000 of assessed valuation. So I think that's a pretty significant difference, that when you read the proposition, you're thinking this is for the pool. When you read the resolution, it's involving a whole lot more. That's, in my opinion, the game changer. The commissioners will have the powers of eminent domain, meaning they can condemn private property for public use with compensation. They could form a police, they could have police there, can buy property. There's a RCW 3561, you should take a look at it, there's a lot of power there. And so I just think it's important to understand the differences. I had AI summarize this in easier language. So the resolution indicates that the Fidalgo Park and Recreation District has recommended forming a Metropolitan Park District, states the intent to transfer the businesses and assets of the Fidalgo Parks and Recreation District, including the pool and fitness center, as that the new district would also own and operate other park and recreational facilities and programs within the same boundaries. So just FYI. Thank you.
Thank you for speaking to why you oppose this. It's been a while since I read the council's resolutions. Ken, would you like to speak to the point that was just made, its accuracy?
You can look it up.
I'm trying, actually.
Yeah, I was actually having trouble hearing the difference, I guess, between the two, but we made it clear that we didn't want just the facility, that it had to be the campus that we are on right now. Because we own those two other homes, we could have another one donated to us, plus the land that the city senior center is on is owned by the recreation district. With the 25-year lease remaining, I think it's 25, but at that point, after that, it's either we continue leasing it or we can, absorb it and use it as for recreation. But anyway, intentional that it was a campus, yes. And we tried to make it clear of that boundary, but I'm not sure where there's other parks being talked about, because we did kind of limit that.
You should just go to the resolution and read it. That's exactly what it says. It is not restricted to the pool. You permanently lose your right to vote about the additional money that's there. Read it for yourself. Don't believe what anybody says. Just go read it. It says exactly what it says. It's important for all of us, because even if we want to build a big facility, we have to agree. We have to know what we're doing. We have to work together. We can help the pool. We all want to keep the pool. That's all I'm saying. Just read it for yourself, and just use your common sense and your ability to read what the language says. It doesn't say it's restricted to the pool. Other districts that did not become metropolitan park districts, or some of them that did, were very, very, very clear. It is just this pool. It is just for this. Ours is not. So you have to ask why. That's all.
So what I'm reading is the Fidalgo Pool and Fitness Center campus.
No, read the resolution
The
that
resolution, not
authorizes
the
it from the
proposition.
city and from the county. This is a lawsuit over what it means if this goes through.
So this is the resolution, this is what's gonna show up on the ballot, but that's what the city and county says. And so that great part is, has that ability to go to other parks and recreational facilities.
Great question. Clearly, no one's got a great answer right now, so that's a question we'll all pursue afterward. It was my impression, which may not be correct, that this is a limited special district and it was constrained by, no, we're just gonna move on. And if I'm wrong, but,
It is technically limited with the broad powers. The taxing is limited, but the broad powers are there. And if you want to get the additional information and look it up yourself, go to the Fidalgo, Friends of Fidalgo Taxpayers.com and look it up yourself, read it for yourself. That's all we're saying.
okay, well, thank you for that. We're gonna go ahead and return to the candidates and ask a few questions, and then we're gonna open it up to the audience for questions, okay? So Cindy, I'm gonna go back to you. Can you tell us about any board experience that you've had or budgeting experience that you've had that will help you as a member of the commission?
Of course.
So I've had experience really at two levels. At the state level, I was responsible for a team that developed and implemented regulations to protect public health. We worked with community advocates, we worked with government officials and affected business. And in this process, my approach was to be open, inclusive, and respectful, always. And I think that this practice and this experience working on contentious issues would be a benefit to the commission. In addition to regulations, my team was also responsible for creating and running two very high-ticket financial programs. And we had the opportunity to do so under the direction of the legislature and our board. There was intense scrutiny on these programs. We were subject to frequent audits and hearings, and I'm happy to say in the course of 11 years, there were no negative findings on those audits. At the local level, I've been appointed to a city commission before, the City of Davis Natural Resources Commission, where I served for 2 terms, including as chairperson in the first term. And this gave me the opportunity to conduct public hearings on divisive issues like whether the city should continue fluoridating the water supply, as well as to work with my fellow commissioners to collaborate on policy positions.
Thank you. Sally? No? Sally, same question for you. What is your budget or board experience that will allow you to add value to this commission?
Budget or board. Budget, my husband, Bill Turner, and I have owned Mount Airy Construction. I've been treasurer, whatever, for 50 years on that, on a construction company. I've been on 2 main boards, including a church board, but that would be 3. One is ETA Projects that we have as an NGO, our family. We had a niece who was killed in an accident in Bolivia and as an exchange student, and our family made a ETA Projects, which is a nonprofit, and we do all types of programs in Bolivia for girls and health promoters, and we've put in over 800 organic latrines, composting latrines, and so I've been on that board for many years. I was also, while I was in Baltimore taking care of my grandchildren, I was on the board for it just went out of my brain. School that's not charter school. Yes, one of the first charter school in Baltimore, Maryland.
Thank you. Would you pass it down to Sandy? Sandy, in your initial introduction, you made it clear that you support the creation of the new metropolitan district. Should it not pass, how will you be involved with the pool? Aside from your master swimming, aside from a user, what role do you see for yourself?
I know that I would get really involved with Friends of the Pool and make those monthly meetings, and I would be coming to the commission meetings as often as I could to be a public participant and to provide my input, because I think that is very important for the public to provide input. So that's how I would participate. And if we were to ever get to the point where there were conversations about a new facility, I'd love to be a part of that, although I know that's going to be very difficult if this measure doesn't pass.
Thanks. Sorry. To Judy.
Same question?
No. Judy, you've made it pretty clear that you are interested in fiscal responsibility. You have a great deal of business experience. What is your position on the creation of the new district? Are you for it or are you against it?
I can't say I'm for it, and the reason I can't say I'm for it is because my history with managing and running Union Harbor condos, as I stated, with it had a pool and a dock and 49 units all out over the water, and it was a 1968 building, and it required an enormous amount of maintenance because it was over the water, and the pool was constantly needing maintenance. And I think what bothered me a great deal when I started looking into this pool issue and the budgets is that there's been no planning. There's been literally 50 years with this pool and no planning, no long-term plan to replace this pool. We don't have to be in this situation. And so my purpose is, and Sandy was talking about, what to do if this doesn't pass. Well,
if it doesn't pass, we need to really take a look at how this pool is being operated. And not just, the budget, looking over the budget, 67% of the budget goes to wages. There's not a lot of money that's been able to be put on maintaining and taking care of the pool. And, I don't think that the Metropolitan Park District is the answer. I think we need to back up here and really take a look at how this pool needs to be managed and operated. I think that, I look at the senior center and I see what a great job they do of having fundraisers. I haven't seen any fundraisers for the pool and the recreation center. And I think they're wonderful facilities, but it really needs some help here before you step into this big Metropolitan Park District. This Metropolitan Park District also has the ability to, I want to show you, this is all the things that are governing this Metropolitan Park District. It's massive, and it's another bureaucracy, and it takes it away from the citizens, really, of Anacortes to manage this pool. And I think the citizens should manage it. I can't get any data on how many members are a part of this pool. There's no data on that. We're guessing around 5,000 people are members of the pool. Well, that leaves 13,000 people in this town who don't care about the pool. And their taxes, they're being taxed on it anyway. And some don't mind, some very much mind now. With the state going into $12.5 billion increase in our taxes this year, people are really, really concerned about taxes and the amount of money. And I checked on my, let's see here. I checked on my assessment for my home, which I bought 8 years ago, that has doubled in taxes. I have 15 taxes to pay on my house. So people are looking closely at how that school or how that pool is budgeted. What's happening in the maintenance and operations of that pool? 68% of the budget goes to wages. I personally think that's outrageous. I've never seen that happen in any company that I've been involved with. So I think there's a lot to do here before you try to do a Metropolitan Park District, so, okay?
So you've made it clear that you have concerns about the creation of this new district. If I've understood the other three candidates correctly, you are all in support. Would any of you or all of you like to reply to Judy's concerns? Well, okay then. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
I wanted to address a couple of concerns that I had last year, the first time this measure came up. So I read it. I'm a reader and a researcher, so I go straight to the law. I read the statutory powers that are invested in a metropolitan district, and there were a couple things that gave me angst. One was the dollars. The second one was eminent domain. And what I was very happy to see this time around was that both of those were explicitly dealt with in the ballot proposition. So the dollars are capped at the maximum of 12 cents per thousand, and eminent domain is essentially off the table because the specific language that we're voting on, not what the city and county resolutions say, but the language we're voting on restricts it to the Fidalgo Pool and Fitness Center campus. And I see some folks disagreeing with that. Well, my version of the legal brain says it's clear. I listened to the city council hearings when the city attorney addressed this fact and said that they specifically crafted this language in order to address those concerns. So for me, I am totally comfortable that if we decide to approve this metro district, it will have reasonable and rational powers, and best of all, it will have the ability to ensure that the pool can continue to operate in the future. This pool, and then potentially when we gear up a new pool.
Okay, one of the things I think that's really important to make clear is that this measure would actually allow us to invest in maintenance and operations. I agree right now, not enough is being spent there. There's not enough room in the budget. This measuring, turning it into a metropolitan parks district would allow us to be able to invest in maintenance and operations so we can do those really important fixes that have to happen unless that could possibly, if those fixes don't happen, then we lose the pool. So essentially, we need this measure in order to put more investment into maintenance and operations. Second, oh, I'm sorry. I'm a planner as part of my job. It's really hard to plan when you don't have secure, sustainable, regular funding. And that's something working for a nonprofit that we have to deal with all the time. We have one-year contracts and two-year contracts. Some of them we expect are going to be continuing, sometimes they don't. And so it's really difficult to plan when you're not 100% sure what funding is going to exist. So I would argue, if we want to plan for the future, and we should be putting in a 20-50-year plan for the future. We can't do it without knowing if we're going to have money to pay for the pool.
We have for 30 years.
We can make that different. I like to plan. Lastly, I would also say when it comes to the specific amount, I know that people are worried about an increase and things like that. There's a lot of language around that. If you do the math on it, I know I did it for my assessed value of my home, it comes out to what would be a maximum of $1.66 per month. That's less than a cup of coffee. I just want to make that clear as well. And so we're looking at the longevity and the sustainability of the pool, possibly versus possibly closing down, all for about that much less than a cup of coffee.
For your house.
Yes, I would also like to add to that. I noticed on my taxes too that at 0.09, the next, it was the lowest of all the 15 taxes that you brought up. But the next lowest was the city hospital, which was at 0.64 on mine. So that's almost 5 times more taxes for the city hospital than what we pay. You know, for $1 million home, it would cost $97 a year for $1 million home. For a $500,000 home, it's about $49. So it's, of all the taxes, I think we get more bang for our buck on this one.
Okay, why don't we take a question from the audience? Who's got a question? You have been waiting since the beginning.
Yeah, I just didn't want to forget my questions. And the question is for, first I want to thank every one of you to volunteer and step up to be commissioner, run for commissioner's position. That's very important. When we first moved to Skagit County, and I was very happy to see we have fitness and a pool. And I used to go to the Puyallup YMCA pool. That was the biggest west of Mississippi. So question here, back to Mr. Hansen and Eric is I looked up RCW chapter 35 and 61, every single one of them. And I noticed that if we need to increase the rate, like from 12 cents, for instance, to 45 cents, we can do that at any time. And we only need a simple majority. Yeah, simple majority approval, which means 50% plus 1. And also with RCW 3561, we can have a short-term debt to the tune of 0.3% of total assessed value. So let's just simplify it, 10 billion, that's $37.5 million short-term debt that's allowed under RCW. And I'm not familiar with the current pool, the recreational district. So if you could speak on what's the requirement. For instance, if we want to increase to 60 cents per thousand, under the older rule, what's the requirement for voter approval? And also, what's the what's the short-term debt that doesn't require voter approval?
So the first part you brought up is correct. On the, and I'm trying to remember what it was now, but the current district, it's, and I think there's language in there about it, 60%, but everything we've passed has always been a simple majority. Yeah, the 6 year is the only one that we've been going out for, and that's the simple majority.
So 50 plus 1.
50 plus 1, so it's the same as the Metropolitan District, Park District would have.
Okay. How about the short-term debt you are able to get without voter approval?
So I would have to look into all of that, but I know that it's normally based on what your total asset value is. And so it's one facility and some land, so you're not, I mean, the number you came up with we would not be allowed to.
This is under the new RCW.
So we can issue bonds for debt under the new district, but there's still a cap on what.
Correct.
Yes.
3/8% times total assessed value. So
Correct, and I don't know what our total assessed value
10
is.
billion?
10 billion?
Billion.
10 billion? For our
No,
facilities.
For the district.
Oh, no, it would be our assets that we own, the land and the building, not the whole.
No, it's on the total assessed value in the district, right?
No, it's usually based on the assets in the organization and how much debt, it's like a bank, how much debt, debt are you allowed to take?
So that's what I was trying to,
So no, it's not the whole county, it's
It's not the total properties you can tax, okay?
correct. And kind of related to that discussion, I keep hearing the eminent domain.
Yeah.
Yes, that is allowed, but we still have to pay for it. We're talking about a shoestring budget here, 12 cents from the 11.38. We don't have tons of money to go out there and buy land anyway, so we're not gonna start a police force. There's a whole bunch of things a Metropolitan Park District could do.
Yeah.
That's not us, we're not there. We're small, we're on the smaller side of these districts.
Shay, I have a question.
Well, you've spoken once. Let me just see if anybody else has a question. Yes, sir. I'll get back to you if there's.
Hi, Stan Dury from Anacortes. I just want clarification on the timeline in terms of if the vote, if the resolution passes, if the ballot measure passes, pardon me, when does that go into effect, A? And B, when then does the new board sit? I think you mentioned that, but I think you mentioned 2027?
For the fiscal, for the taxing district. But the board would be installed almost immediately, before 26.
Okay, so if it passes, it goes into effect immediately. The measure goes into effect. The board then sits immediately, but what happens in 2027?
That's the larger proposed district, to align with the school district. So the people on Weemus Island wouldn't see any change in 26. It would be in 27 unless something has changed there, but.
So essentially the taxing authority starts with 2027.
Correct, the
If I
assessor just
characterize
can't
it
do
that
it
way.
that quick. It takes a year to redraw those districts and figure
Right.
out.
Okay, I hope I wasn't the only one confused, but anyway, thank you.
Anyone else have a question? Oh, okay, thanks. I'll go back and forth in the room.
I just wanted to further clarify, so if the Metropolitan District passes, they will still use the same levy rate as the Parks and Recs, because it's a 6-year levy that won't expire till the end of 27.
So for 1 year, but
It
they
just
will
goes 1 year.
establish, in their first meetings, they will establish the new levy rate up to 12 cents per thousand. And then that will be implemented in
The
2027.
following year.
Correct.
And to clarify further, there won't be any double taxing, you pay one or the other. Okay, who else had it up?
Who is voting? Is it the current district or the expanded district?
Good question. So the current district will see the current commissioners and the proposed district. The whole school district will see the new Metropolitan Park District and the 5 new commissioners.
So it would be the whole area that goes, okay.
But not for the existing slate of commissioners who are up for election. Okay.
Yeah, my name is Joe Organic. I'm a resident here in Anacortes, and I have a question for Judy, and I wonder if you could answer it. As I understand it, you would vote no for this proposition, yet you're running as a commissioner for that new entity. Can you explain your position as to why?
So that's a fair concern, and I've heard it before. I oppose the structure, not the pool. If the voters approve the MPD, my job will be to make it work honestly and efficiently. My record shows that I know how to manage budgets and build trust. I'll make sure every decision benefits the pool's future and respects the taxpayers at the same time. Okay?
Hi, I'm Connie Miller from Anacortes, and I was just wondering, there seems to be a couple of different sides, and I wanted to see if maybe Ken wouldn't mind clarifying, or Eric. Because of this maintenance issue, is there a reserve fund? A lot of municipalities create a reserve where they put away every year some amount of money to deal with these types of maintenance issues, and I haven't heard anybody really talk about that. Does the pool have one? Is it fully funded? And then why aren't we tapping into that?
So yes, there is a reserve fund. It's in the bank. It's hundreds of thousands of dollars. But as I said, that will,
How many?
I don't know the exact amount. It's, well, I don't have a balance sheet in front of me. Anyway. Like I said, the liner, if we had to do that, that would have spend it all, and then we have nothing. The liner is at least $500,000, if not $750,000 to do that whole, so.
Higher than I've heard, okay.
Yes, so we have it if we need to spend it, but we don't want to if we don't have to. We would rather put that towards whatever emergencies we have.
Nope, you've had one.
So I have a question about adding population to the tax base. There's not a lot of population on those islands. Is that gonna make the difference in pool stability? Financially speaking.
No, it really wasn't for financial or trying to increase the tax base. It was to make everything administratively easier because we already don't align with everybody on Fidalgo Island. The county doesn't have time to kind of redraw the district we should be and to tax those people. So copying another district was the easiest way to do that. And we do have people from Guaymas Island that use the facility, so we kind of considered them community. I didn't know about Sinclair and Cypress, and as I said earlier, I think there's a way that we can remove them before anything would actually go into effect, but that's in the Metropolitan Park District, RCW, and we would need to refer or get legal counsel on how we do that. But going to the county, they're not experts on this district, so we pretty much always get directed to an attorney to make sure that we're doing everything correctly.
There's a woman in the back there, in the very back, who keeps raising her hand.
Okay, just to add to that answer though, according to the assessor's office, for the increased population base, it would raise somewhere between $67,000 and $73,000 a year, at least initially, unless, you know, at the current rates. So yeah, it's obviously not to raise a tremendous amount of additional money. Who is it that, okay, all the way in the back.
Yep.
I'm Kathleen Flanagan from here in Anacortes. I'm just curious why there aren't more signs out supporting the park district, the Metropolitan Park District.
I can answer that question, Kevin, if you like.
Sure.
I'm on the pro committee for that Cup Right, our support for the Metropolitan Park District.
I'm Marilyn Stabler, and I used to be executive director for 10 years at the pool, and I've been a member of Friends of Fidalgo Pool for over 7 years. I wrote the 501c3. Friends of Fidalgo Pool can only support a ballot issue so much according to feds and to the state level. They supplied $950 worth of signs, okay? That's all they can spend. One of us were not savvy enough to figure out how to buy any at that point. When I went back to look at it, the process is quite for labor intensive to do it. Now, I can do it next year if I have to for levy, but I don't plan on it. I'm hoping this Metropolitan Park District. So I've also had 8 signs stolen or vandalized. It's been reported to the police. Those people have asked for additional signs, which we cannot provide. I do have a few that I can replace. I want you to all know, if your signs are missing, that is a misdemeanor. If someone takes it off of private property or even public property where it's not allowed to be placed, if you see that a sign is taken, please report it to the police department. If you feel a sign is not in the right place, call the right government agency to remove it. Thank you.
You want to take the closer one first?
Momentum, I'm on my way.
Yeah, hi, I'm Marta McClintock, and I'm a proud swim mom, an official at the pool, and then I also led efforts to get 3rd graders swim lessons back at the pool. And I guess I'm just really sad and confused about why I'm seeing so many vote no signs out in this community. This, to me, from everything that I've read and all the time I've spent at the pool, seems like the only sustainable path for us to have a pool for the future. And so I'm actually really confused why someone who doesn't seem to think or seem to support this measure would be wanting to be a part of the pool as it is right now. It's incredibly expensive, and maybe you could all talk to this as well, to continue to go out for levies every 6 years. And so that's a drain on the pool. There's only so much money that we can spend on signs. I just am wondering what you all think in terms of the 6-year plan versus this ensuring the future of the pool for many, many years to come. So if you could speak to that, that would be great.
Who wants to tackle all of us?
Yeah.
All right, we'll start down here.
Well, it used to be every 4 years that they had to do the levy. I don't think, maybe
many of you remember that, but it used to be every 4 years, and they put it into 6 years because it cost a lot of money for the levy. And that's about all I wanted to talk about that.
Well, I think you know I am definitely for the Metropolitan District, and it's primarily because of the continuity of funding, the stability of funding, and that certainty also makes it possible to go get loans from banks, which you really can't get if you have only a guaranteed existence 2, 3, 4 years out. So I believe this will be a wiser financial investment as well, because when we get to the point that we need to make major repairs, if the facility needs to go out and try and get a high interest loan because it's high risk, that's going to cost us all more money, and it's going to leave us with less in terms of the facility.
Yes, I would echo that. I think it's incredibly important that we have that sustainable funding so that we have this incredibly important resource into the future for all those children that use it, for everybody in the community that uses it. And remember, there are 6,500 visits per month, I believe, to the pool. That doesn't even include the 3 swim teams that use the pool. To be able to make sure that we can continue to use that long into the future more sustainably and be able to plan for it is really important. The other thing I think that's really important too is any funder, whether that's a taxpayer, whether that's government, whether that's individual donations, wants to see their funds, their money have an impact and live into the future. And so it's hard to swallow the idea of seeing the possibility of, I'm a taxpayer, I'm going to pay into this, and then, oh, but it may not exist in a few years. That's really hard to swallow. So I think as a taxpayer, I want to see this live into the future, and I hope other people do too.
So the real issue here is that the pool is in a poor financial situation. Why is it in a poor financial situation? This is because of poor planning. And I don't think a Metropolitan Park District is going to solve a poor planning. I think it's going to continue. It takes away our voting rights. It takes away the transparency to the public. It is a time when there's a lot of things that need to be done, that could be done. You've had 30 years of funding. What's happened? Where's the money? As the saying goes, where's the money? And it didn't have to be like this. And I don't think the Metropolitan Park District, by giving the commissioners a blank check again, here it is, and how it's poor planning. The employees need to be cross-trained. We need to right-size the organization. We don't need to grow it into bankruptcy. Increase revenue, diversity programs. The aquatics part is failing. The fitness portion of this situation is funding the pool at this point. And there needs to be a succession planning, and we need to attract volunteers, and the list goes on and on and on about what really needs to happen with the pool. We are for the pool. I am for the pool and the fitness center. Quite frankly, when my back is recovering as it is, I want to be able to use that facility. But I don't want to lose my voting rights. I don't want to lose my control as a citizen to be able to plan better for this situation. This has not been run well. That's the bottom line. As an independent business owner, let me tell you, it's not been run well. And is that going to continue? But now we have a different bureaucracy running it, instead of the people of Anacortes. This situation has been coming for a long, long time. This isn't new. And 30 years of funding? I mean, come on. That is fabulous that this community has given 30 years of funding to this pool and fitness center, especially since it hasn't been run well. And I have to tell you that as a business owner and looking at the situation. And so put it into a government situation, and it just continues on its merry way with a lot more money. Okay, so that's how I feel.
I'd like to ask a question in follow-up to some of those comments. It is certainly a comment that I've heard around town that the planning for the pool has not been as good as it might be, questions about governance. But I guess my question is, this is an old facility. It hasn't been able to raise a tremendous amount of money. Under the new scheme, it has greater taxing authority, but would not collect a lot more money initially unless things changed. So from all of you, from your different perspectives, whether it passes or not, you at least initially don't have much different amounts of money. What would you do differently to address the things that need to be done at the pool? Whether it's, as Judy says, it's poor management, or whether it's, as Cindy says, we've got expensive repairs to come. What will you do differently if you're on whichever board is continued?
Since I said it before, if I'm on the board, it's because this measure didn't pass and that my specialty is maintenance. I want to also tell you that I love this pool. I have spent over 8,000 hours in it. I've seen people come and go. I think it's the most functional pool I have ever been in. It has yards going one way, it has meters going the other way, it has a diving pool that is integrated into the whole thing. I think it's the most functional pool. I've seen people there all the time. We have 6,500 people there. The laps are always going. I think that what?
At the risk of, I don't mean to be rude, but my question is, what will you do differently?
I would maintain it better.
With what money?
With what money? With the 650,000 that we have. We just had 350,000 given to us. We would actually make it so that maybe we'd have to keep that 12% cap on it for a while, figure out how much money we need, and get the maintenance done that needs for this pool to last as long as we can. And that's what I would do. I would also make sure that we have somebody come in and do an engineer come in and do an assessment of the fitness of the building, and we already know kind of what's wrong with the pool. I actually have a 2017, when they did it the last time, they haven't done it since, and that's what I would do, is make sure we have an engineer come in and assess the problems that we have at this pool right now.
One example. I'm sorry about that. I thought I had this down, straight in front of you, about a foot. One of the reasons that I'm pushing for more transparency is I had to do a Public Records Act request in order to get the pool's budget. But I've had an opportunity to look through that. I actually am impressed by what they've been able to accomplish with the amount of money that they've requested so far. They are well below the maximum cap, and one of the things that I would seek to introduce as a commissioner is a survey or listening sessions with pool users and find out what's on everybody's list that they would most like to improve. I mean, the list would be, yay long, and you clearly couldn't fund all that. But I would like to see the commission deliberately make a choice, maybe every year. There's a couple of things. I'm gonna tell you, so I'm an older lady. One of the things I hear in the locker room all the time is the benches are too low, and people with hip problems or knee problems can't get back up off the benches. It seems silly, but for some people that's a real issue. I watch a friend who comes with her disabled son, and they have to put a towel over his face and walk him through the women's locker room because there's no family changing room. So there's a couple things like this that I think could reach the top of the list, but I would want the commission to be working with the patrons and the staff in order to pick a couple of those things every year to fund while still being lean and mean on the budget.
Thanks. I had fairly similar ideas. I think anytime you're doing any planning, you start with a needs assessment, very in-depth needs assessment. So you're going to be looking at facilities needs, you're going to be looking at staffing and operational needs. And then once you figure out what all those needs are, you're going to prioritize what is the most urgent. And you're going to be looking at what needs to happen first, what needs to happen later. So first needs assessment, then prioritization, and that might say this needs to happen this year, this happens 2 years down the line, and so on. And you can usually attach numbers to that and make some projections. So that needs assessment is important. I think the input is also important. Again, you can't get input and expect to do absolutely everything, but the reason to get input is because more heads are better than one, right? When I'm working with planning on my staff, I want everybody to come to meetings with ideas and with hard questions, right? And so that's what I would want to do too if we gathered input, is to say, what are the questions we're not asking? And what are the needs that we aren't seeing that we hear from other people? So again, needs assessment first, prioritization, and then you put together budget projections from there.
So I agree with that. Planning is where it's at. Long-range planning, especially for this pool, is so terribly important. But I have one issue with what Shay keeps saying. And from our calculations, the difference between the actual revenue from 2025 and the projected revenue with Metro District is $338,345. It's substantially more. This is available on the Friends of Fidalgo taxpayers for you to take a look at the calculations and see. It's a substantially bigger amount of money. So I've said most of what I have to say as far as what needs to be done. There's a lot that needs to be done, and there's a lot that can be done with the community effort. More marketing to this community is essential. People don't even know about the pool and the fitness center. I've been out doorbelling a lot in the last few weeks, and I hear like, I don't know anything about the pool. I took a walk through the pool and fitness center yesterday, I think, and I thought, gosh, people really don't know about the programs available here, what the options are. And what was that program, the MELT? Was it the MELT program? No, yeah. Who knows about that? I didn't know about it. That thing is fabulous, absolutely wonderful. So the marketing aspect of what's going on needs to be improved 100%. This town does not know what that pool has available for everybody. And, I heard complaints like the water's too hot, the water's too cold, the water's dirty, too many people, and so on. So, it's great to listen to the people to get the ideas of what to do, but I think basic business management and long-term planning is where it's at here, to save this pool. This pool will be saved, whether you have the Metropolitan Park District or not. We will have our pool. Thank you.
So I'm not a mathematician. I can barely add 2 + 2. So I asked the assessor's office for some numbers. And I'm not going to question what's on your website, but I have some numbers from the assessor's office. I asked them to run a hypothetical scenario because I had no grasp of the numbers. So what they did was run numbers for me if the district is larger, if the ballot measure passes, based on current population and current property assessed values, and if we say that we know that the taxes are being collected at 9 cents, about 9 cents per $1,000 of assessed value, what would it be next year if under the larger district, assuming that they made some guesstimates for what property values would be, obviously they can't know for sure, And the additional revenue, if the assessed rate remains 9 cents as it is currently, the additional collection was $68,893. If, however, it went to the maximum of 12 cents, the additional revenue, the additional taxes to be collected would be $93,694. I can't attest to the accuracy of anything except that this came from the assessor. So I just share that. I have not got a public opinion about whether I support or oppose this measure, so I went to my best source for numbers, and that's what I got. We have 5 minutes left. Yes, ma'am. You gotta make it really, really fast.
Oh, it's really simple.
Okay.
I received my voter's pamphlet in the mail. Oh, my name's Phyllis Hainan. I live in Anacortes. Anyway, I received my voter's pamphlet today, but I didn't have the opportunity to review it. And so my question is the objective of the Metropolitan Park District to maintain the pool or ultimately get a new pool? And the second thing is I'd really like to get the resource you mentioned. Maybe somebody could write it on the board so we could all use that, because if there's a discrepancy between the resolution and what we're voting on, I'd like to know that.
Okay, who wants to?
So it's a little of both, I suppose, but it's absolutely maintaining the current facility, but it's also what we felt was necessary to have a serious fundraising campaign for a new facility, which we struggled with last time, but we still want a new facility.
I just have a simple question, I guess an uneducated question. In addition to the tax base to support the pool, are there any user fees, and if not, why not?
Shay, can I answer the question that just came before too, or is that done?
Yeah. Want to get the user fees?
There are absolutely user fees, monthly, per visit, all different family, all different structures out there, in district, out of district, so yes.
I'm gonna, yes.
I'll be quick, and thank you for that question. Definitely at this point, the Metro Park District is necessary to be able to sustain maintenance and operations of the current facility. It does also allow more easily for us to get financing for a future facility. My understanding is that, years ago before COVID, they did have some designs and things like that. That would all have to be revisited within the confines of what is the funding available to us to do. Does that look like a partial renovation? Does it look like a full new facility? None of those decisions have been made, and that's part of what would have to take place within a process of a needs assessment, prioritization, looking at different options of what's possible. So I think it's, again, as Ken said, it's a part of the process, but it's not definitely a goal. I mean, well, I wouldn't say a goal. It's not a one and done. I think that a lot of us would like to see a new facility because this is one of the oldest facilities I've ever swum in, and it is time. Most of the newer ones do actually have the 2 pool setup where you have a warm pool for people who need warmer for therapy and things like that, and then you also have a colder pool for those who are doing much higher intensive exercises. So that would be a wonderful thing, honestly, for all users.
Also addressing the previous question, when you look at your voter's pamphlet at the ballot measure, it will include the RCW citation that you can go to. I'll tell you that it's heavy reading. And I apologize, I don't have the reference for the city and the county council resolutions, but you can find them online. All you have to do is go to the city of Anacortes and type in the appropriate question, or you can call the city. And the county actually has a very good website. You can look it up there. There will be a handout at the back of the room. I had no idea that anybody would come, so there clearly are not enough for everybody. which means that if you have a smartphone and you want this, maybe take a picture of it and leave the paper for somebody who doesn't have that. But it does detail what the resolution does. It names the candidates and their contact information, and it has website information on the yes and the no committees, as well as a couple of others. So I'll put that in the back, take a look at it, take one on your way out. We are just about at 9 o'clock. Want to thank the candidates and the commissioner for being here to help clarify what is actually quite a complicated little scenario. It is wonderful to hear that regardless of the position on the new district, everyone is in support of a good pool for this community. Yep. It is fantastic on a Friday night to see so much interest from the community. So with that, on behalf of the Fidalgo Democrats, I'll say thank you very much. And would you please help us put the chairs away on the sides? Have a good one.